just had some questions as well. Just going on the plan to end violence against women and children, and wondering what you're doing to ensure that female spaces are protected. So we've had cases nationally where we've got males being put into prisons, they're able to access domestic violence shelters and so forth, where quite often women are fleeing from domestic violence situations where males are the perpetrators. What are you doing as part of the plan to protect female-only spaces?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. There is quite a lot of investment in the National Plan going to response services. States and territories also have the main responsibility for frontline services, Senator, but very happy if you've got very specific circumstances. In those settings, that would be mostly in the responsibility of states and territories.
I guess just for federal funding to be applied to funding from this plan, I'm assuming those frontline services would need to be female only, women only?
We would need to take on notice because, again, through our Federation funding agreement, for example, we fund frontline services, but states and territories choose where that funding goes, and those requirements and how they manage that would be in their jurisdiction rather than the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth has some national programs that have specific service arrangements. One of those is 1-800-RESPECT, for example, which is open to everybody.
Okay, but that funding comes from this particular bucket of money, I guess, which is the plan to end violence against women and children?
States and territories fund through their own government funding, frontline services.
Okay, so I'm particularly interested in the funding that is attached to this national plan. I guess is the Commonwealth making sure that that money is going towards services, frontline services in this case, for women? Women only to access.
There are a range of priority areas. The frontline service funding is two parts for the Commonwealth: the national programs, so 1-800-RESPECT, Leaving Violence program. Those are programs that people apply or call up for help, Senator. And then frontline service funding is the Federation funding agreement that we have in partnership with states and territories, goes to frontline services. We support with states how and what they fund. There are requirements in the agreement about what they fund, but in terms of the detail of spaces, we would have to... I don't think we've got any national programs that would go to that, and we would need to work through. We don't have that prescription in our agreement. That is really with states and territories.
Okay, if you could take that on notice to see whether you are funding things like domestic violence shelters, any spaces that are, for women to use as refuges, and I would assume
We will be through the Federation agreement.
I would assume this is what this program should be delivering, but just reassurance that those spaces are for women, and that women that are escaping male perpetrators aren't actually being put in refuges with males in there as well.
We can take that on notice.
Thank you. That would be very good. And I'll just go back to my colleague, Senator Kovacic, just follow up from some of the questions that she had. So I guess, how does the department reconcile inconsistencies between the ABS, the AIHW and the state data sets when reporting progress under the national plan?
Senator, the differences are the different reporting from the different data sets we actually use to look at. We try to triangulate the data, so we're looking at the different data sets from ABS, AIHW, etc. Not one indicator provides us with a good understanding of family, domestic and sexual violence, so it's important that we do rely on a range of different data sets to bring together. So part of the work that we do look at is looking at the trends across different data sets to try to get an understanding of the impact of the situation in terms of family, domestic and sexual violence across the country.
And This is probably for the Commissioner to come back up here. Does the Commission maintain its own consolidated data set? Sorry, I'll allow you to sit down before I finish. It's always hard.
Thank you, Senator. Michaela Cronin, Domestic Family and Sexual Violence Commissioner. Your question is about, do we hold a specific data set ourselves?
Yes.
So, short answer to that is no, we don't. Our role, the reason, however, our purpose was set up, one of the reasons was around data. So part of our responsibility is ensuring that good data is being kept, that there is to inform the delivery of outcomes. We are not data experts. There are a number of bodies that have been set up and funded by government to do that work, and you've mentioned some of those. Australian Institute of Family Studies, AIHW, the Australian National Research Organisation for Women's Safety is quite specifically set up to ensure that we are building the evidence and the data to best understand what both the problems are and what solutions are working well.
Fantastic, thank you. And in terms of formal mechanisms that you have in place, what can you do as the Commission to compel states or territories or agencies to provide you with timely, consistent data that you need? Because you're relying on them.
So, Senator, we don't have the power to compel data, but we do work very closely in collaboration with the department, and the department, as a number of the officials have described, as part of the funding agreement, there is requirements to provide data under the funding agreement with the jurisdictions. So there are mechanisms in place to ensure that data is being provided.
Okay, but rather it's funding rather than you being able to...
No, we can't compel data
to do it. And then in terms of the rapid review, it's suggested introducing independent oversight of things like police responses to family and domestic violence. Have you considered this recommendation and how you think this would work?
Sorry, Senator, can you elaborate on which of the recommendations you mean again?
So the recommendation in terms of having independent oversight over police responses to, so when they get called out,
yes,
that there is an overarching, I guess, it would essentially have to be a national database, I'm assuming, to bring it all together.
So so in terms of our role as the Commission with regards to working with the police around that, implementing that, the intent of that recommendation, I have, last week I was invited by the Minister to meet with all police ministers and police commissioners, and they had put onto their agenda the issue of domestic, family and sexual violence broadly.
Yep.
They are definitely interested. We have worked quite closely with different police commissions across jurisdictions. They're aware they need to improve their responses, and there's a lot of reform in place to do that work.
Yep.
Our responsibility around that is to inform the Commonwealth around what. So, hence the attending the national meeting of police ministers about where they can improve and look at that in terms of response rates.
Okay, thank you. So it's hopeful to think that we could have something where everyone is going to work together. I'm sure the police would be very grateful.
It would be
for the insight.
That's definitely the intention, Senator.
Well, that's good to hear those conversations are happening. Sorry.